Okay, we need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll also second it.
For December 11th, 2023.
Yes.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, just so you know, our recorder's not here, so I'm gonna have to take notes as well, so please bear with me with the changes for the minutes, because
Okay.
I'll be doing both right now.
Aye,
We'll
aye.
go easy on you tonight.
I appreciate it.
So it's been moved and seconded to, so that was moved by Mary Lee and seconded by Bob, because you got to write all that down too.
Good, I got that.
Okay. Any changes?
Let Joe go first.
Yeah, no changes.
I didn't have any either, so I was afraid I missed something.
didn't have any, did
I do. Not a lot, but on page, I'll just give you this, but basically on page 2, we have to change the board. We felt that the board and the police chief could handle the action for the lights at Crystal Haven. So not the director of public works. That's one change. Another change, I removed the and put a comma in. The van in the fire department at Parsons Hill sidewalk project. I'm in the ARPA paragraph on page 2, about the middle of the way. And then they have not funded either reserve accounts for either projects, and I changed that to reserve accounts for either of the sidewalk projects. And then I changed accurate to needed on the subsequent line down.
So I'm sorry, accurate to needed.
That's all I have, so I'm just gonna give this to you, Mike,
All right,
and that'll make it easy for you to see the changes that need to be made.
okay. Thank you.
That's all I have. Was I clear enough, or?
Yes.
Take a vote, Bob?
Yes, I am.
Well, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we have citizens' comments and concerns. That's items not on the agenda. Can you come up to the podium and introduce yourself, Tim?
Good evening, my name is Tim Smith, along with Julie Finnegan and Tony Lobdell. We're the Castleton delegation to the Slate Valley School Board. I just have a brief public comment to kind of close the circle regarding an article that appeared in the Rutland Herald last week that spoke to a notice that accompanied all property tax bills this past August. I'm not here to argue about the subjective nature by which we might present the facts, rather to simply acknowledge how complex school funding and educational tax matters can be. Just a reminder that we have a statewide education funding model. Education taxes raised locally here in Castleton don't stay in Castleton. Rather, they go to the State Educational Fund, where the politicians in Montpelier get to debate the usage, the deployment of these funds using various metrics. We share in the costs to educate all students in Vermont. For example, Castleton taxpayers are helping to subsidize the $200 million plus new high school and tech center in the city of Burlington. It's not just education spending within Slate Valley, but education spending across the entire state, which ultimately determines the homestead educational tax rate that we pay here in Castleton. Local school boards have very little control over most components of educational spending. Slate Valley is a fiscally conservative school board. We have made difficult and disciplined choices over the past several years. We prioritize needs over wants. Accordingly, our equalized homestead tax rate has decreased in 4 of the previous 5 years. Our spending per pupil is consistently ranked in the bottom 25% in comparison to other school districts across the state. We view the Selectboard as partners with a common goal, which is to incentivize more people to live, work, recreate, and raise their families here in our community. And the Select Board helps carry this important and common message to all of our residents. We would be happy to return to this board once our school budget for FY25 is finalized, present it, and certainly address any questions or concerns you might have regarding that school budget. Just want to thank you for the time. We appreciate your service to the community, and Merry Christmas. And Mike, I'm just going to give you a copy of this.
Oh, thank you. That would be great. You mind if I copy it and put it on there just like this then, right?
You can keep it.
All right, thanks.
Tim, I do have a response.
Sure.
That notice, or whatever you want to call it, that was in the tax bill stuffer,
Yes.
some of us on the board find that unfortunate and incomplete. And so we're going to consider that a personnel matter that has been addressed.
Okay.
And nothing of that nature will be published on a stuffer of that type in the future without the knowledge and approval of this board and the town manager.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
We're good. Is there,
I have,
Mary Jo, you got her hand up.
yeah,
go ahead, Mary.
thank you. Thank you, and thank you for having public comment. I have 3 quick questions, well, a couple requests. I noticed that the minutes from 12/11 just have the attendee list, and it's my recollection that you were gonna post the budget, on that. That's my recollection from that meeting. If, maybe you decided not to, I don't know, but I was looking for it.
That's my recollection as well, Mary.
Okay, yeah, if you could post that, I think that, improves transparency to the citizens. Also, I was just curious if you could, say, I remember the last budget meeting I attended anyway, there was some debate about whether the budget for operating CVS would be in the budget or a separate ballot item. So I'm curious what you decided, and then what you decided was the amount needed for an annual operating of that building. Thank you.
This board did direct the town manager to include that in the budget, which he has done. And
The budget is posted with the agenda on this meeting. I didn't post the last one because it's been changed since then, so I posted it with the agenda for this meeting. It's out on the website.
Oh, okay.
And the
I was
CVS is
looking
included.
for it. Okay, thank you. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, Mary. All right, so we answered your questions, I hope?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, is there anyone else either in the room or on Zoom that has an item that needs to be addressed? Nothing? Okay, I'm moving on then. We have a statement from the rec director, but the rec director is not present. So, has everyone had a chance to read this?
Yes.
Is this going to be available on the website, or should we read this out loud?
I can scan it and put it with the minutes.
Let's do that.
Okay.
But in a nutshell, John Alexander is our new rec director, and he gave us a quick rundown on some of the items that are happening now, like basketball and upgrade or update on the heating system, which appears to be under control at this point. So the rec director's report will be available on our website when? Tomorrow? Next day? Somewhere in there?
His report won't be there tomorrow. He planned on giving you the full report next meeting.
No, I meant this document.
Oh, I'll scan it it'll go with the, in the minutes.
Okay.
Or the folder with the minutes in it.
So that will be available online when the minutes are available. Anything else on rec before we move on, guys?
I would just,
Gals?
Mr. Chairman, make the point that John says correctly that he hadn't even been in the job a week. So
Yeah, Well, it's a great deal of understanding that he's not here to issue a full formal report that I found that totally reasonable, and we expect that he will do so in January.
And Mr. Chairman, we're going to add something to that on the buildings. We added it to the report as the status of the buildings and our recreation fields. So the select board can see if we have issues going on and what our solutions are or any assistance that we may need. But instead of just the tracking what's been tracked, the buildings and our fields will be included with that as well.
That, I think, would be a good addition. Okay, well, do we have the police chief? We do not.
See him.
Next item on our agenda is the police update. And the chief is not here, so what's your pleasure, board? Should we skip this and move on?
Put it to the leader in the meeting. He may show up.
If he comes in, he's on the agenda for 6:20, and I think we might be a little ahead of that.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know what time it is.
6:12.
Yeah, well, if he shows up before the meeting's over, we'll backtrack to that. This one's all you, Mike. Appointment of interim treasurer effective January 5th.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to find out, Nedra was going to be on the Zoom, and there's somebody on with iPhone 2, and could somebody that's on Zoom with iPhone 2 identify their name so I have it for the minutes?
*6 to unmute. Sometimes I don't know how to unmute on the iPhone.
iPhone 2 on Zoom, could you please unmute yourselves, use *6, and let us know who you are, please?
Yeah, they're muted right now, right?
They're muted.
Because Nedra was going to be on, but I can still speak to what's going on. So the backstory is our current treasurer, Nancy Trudeau, has decided to retire effective January 4th. We've known this, so it's not a secret, but between the time, because she's an elected official, so to finish out her term, the select board can appoint someone until the next election, regular election or a special election. And Nedra has agreed to be the interim to carry us from January 5th until the elections in March, and be able to keep the town's financial stuff functioning along with the accounting office. So the board would have to appoint Nedra, and Nedra could then appoint her assistant if she's so desired, in case she's not going to be around. But the first step is to appoint Nedra for the remaining portion of Nancy Trudeau's term. So if the board would do that, then on January 5th, Nedra would be the interim treasurer.
I make a motion that Nedra Boutwell become treasurer as of January 5th, 2023.
24.
24, that's right,
Until, and then if you
Till the
wouldn't
next,
mind-
the next election.
Yeah.
until the next election.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. We appoint Nedra Boutwell interim town treasurer. All in favor, or any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, allocation of returnable bottle and can revenue from the transfer station. So we've kicked this around a couple times. And I think it's probably best that Mike speak to this from a town administrative point of view first, as to what the town staff thinks about having this allocated to any particular function in town government. Is there any reason not to do that?
The discussions I had were only with a couple people. One was with the accountant, and the other was with Christine, the tax collector who collects money and stuff. We have nothing really to say besides, I think we agree with what was talked about last meeting, that if the select board wants to assign, like they do the coin drops, like, if Castleton Cares or Castleton Community Center or Hubbardton Fire Department or Castleton Fire Department, you want to give them one of those periods, and then you give the rest to a certain agency or organization. That might be clean for us. And then we can, because they can't have, by the policy, we can assign it, and then they can't have, if there was extras before, they can't have back to back, but I think it'd be nice to have the select board decide who they want to give it to, that the people that have already used it, like Castleton Community Center, Hubbard Fire Department and stuff, and then the remainder go to what some board members recommended was to the recreation, and whether it goes to the summer camp or youth sports, and talking with Martha, so I correct my statement, I need to talk to Martha Clifford as well, that they've been struggling to fund the summer camp. And the money, if it went to the summer camps, we're not talking literally a lot of money. We're probably talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 to $700, $800, that it could help fund that camp. And where they've been, I think last year we budgeted $18,000, and they only took, for revenue, they only took in $11,000. So they're really shorthanded, or underfunded there. So they recognize that they're going to have to raise the rates for the campers. Excuse me, for the campers. So I just think that was a really good idea that the board come up last meeting, was to give it to rec. This unclaimed or unused months, to give them to rec.
Go ahead, Joe.
I'm more inclined to go in the direction that Rob Steele recommended at our last meeting, because it's not a large amount of money that we're talking about on a monthly basis. I think it's about $145 as I calculated it, and the numbers seem to be declining. I think the procedures around determining who gets this on a monthly basis are a little cumbersome. I would rather see it all go to adult and youth sports, as Mary Lee proposed last time. I'm not particularly in favor of having it go to summer camps, because I think summer camps should be self-sustaining or not offered. So I'd be prepared to make a motion that we change the policy in that direction if my colleagues are interested.
Well, I'd like to hear what the other two have to say. Any comments or anything?
Love it.
I like what Joel, it would just save the office a whole lot more.
I would be happy to vote yes to that motion if you were to make it.
So if you're ready for that, the proposal would be that we modify the current transfer station bottle can policy by deleting the first section that has 4 enumerated points, and replacing that with effective January 1, 2024, all proceeds from bottle and can redemption collected at the transfer station shall go to the rec department for the support of youth and adult sports, programs connected to CVS, and maintenance and improvement of the facilities used by the rec department.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I have a request, Joe, that you collaborate with the town manager to rewrite that policy. Would you be willing to do that?
Sure, I don't have it written down, I just
Yeah,
made
good.
that up, but
If you would collaborate with the town manager and have something that's you may have to change the date because we can't approve it until, no, we just did it, we're going to approve it. If have something ready for the next board meeting, which is second Monday in January. Can you do that?
if that's necessary.
Or sometime in the
Are you
next?
suggesting you're not prepared to have us vote on that?
No, I'm willing to vote on it. We have to have something in writing that we can actually
Well, let's see how well Mike did. I suspect he got most of that. He can run that by me, and I'll tweak it if necessary.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna go back and listen to the tape, Joe, and.
Okay.
So I think I'm done. I'm done. Everyone ready?
Yeah.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so the next one, main event. We need to discuss the upcoming budget for review and possible approval. So I'm going to start with, I'll just go around the room. Let's start with Mary Lee. Do you have any comments?
Start over there.
Start over there.
You always start with me.
Joe, are you prepared to do anything about this tonight?
I would be willing to vote on this tonight if my colleagues are ready as well to do that. I think that we have a lot of, as Desi Arnaz once said, we have a lot of splaining to do, Lucy. These are some large increases, more so than we've, in my time on the board, ever presented to the citizens, and I think the sticker shock is going to be considerable for those, especially those who haven't heard why we have such increases. I find it helpful that the manager provided us with this reassessment of the numbers as we had asked him to, which in effect pull out the one-time monies we used last year to lower the cost of the actual expenses. And from that perspective, for those who are watching or listening or present, the total increase is 5.676%. But if you don't understand that particular aspect of it, and I guess I should say a little bit more about that, so we use various carryovers to decrease the apparent cost of some of our regular expenses, like paving and sidewalks, and sand and crushing. And that probably misled a lot of people to thinking that these things were cheaper to do. But it was one-time money that reduced those expenses, and now that we don't have that one-time money, we have to actually put in the budget what they're really gonna cost and what they really normally cost. And when all of that is taken into account, the bottom line isn't 5.76%, but it is 14.3%, which is surprising to some people, I'm sure. So I think what we have in the budget, essentially what we need to run a good town. I think the fact that in the past we use these one-time monies is probably something we should take a look at. I don't know that I would be prepared to do that again, because I think it just kicks the can down the road, and the following year or the year after, we end up having to increase the budget in a much more dramatic way just to maintain steady state. And I would personally appreciate it, because I've offered to draft the Select Board's section of the town report, if Mike could help me identify the broad categories of increase that have made this necessary. I know that we have a number of increases that are tied to technology contracts that we are bound to. We have a number of lots of increases related to employee benefits, cost of materials, asphalt, et cetera, has gone up dramatically over the past year. But I think we need to be very forthright in explaining all the details of these large increase areas to our citizens before we ask them to consider this budget. Having said that, I find I can live with this budget.
Mary Lee?
I have to agree with Joe, because sooner or later, it's gonna come to bite us.
It's biting us today.
And if we are able to knock off 1,000 here and 1,000 there, it isn't gonna amount to enough. And I agree with Joe. It's a big increase, but it's gotta come.
Well, I've worked with Mike for the past month, Mike more than me, but he's bounced a lot of things off me, and I'm pretty confident he's bumped 1,000 off here and there as much as he can. Is that a fair statement?
I think so, and the board did ask me about the increase to the CVS, because that's in this year's budget. And I was able to work with John, Alexander, and Melanie, and we identified there was one place I had technology stuff in two places. So we removed it to rec admin out of the CVS budget, so it went from 80,000 down to like 74 or something now. So I was able to move some stuff down, and there was so with money that's in this year's budget for CVS, after talking with John and some of the contractors, I'm confident we can get the work done unless something really goes sideways, like a boiler just were to, totally fail, that we can get everything done that we wanted to get done in this year's budget and not pass it into the next year's budget. So that's how I was able to go back and look at that and reduce some of the costs. So what you saw last meeting was 80,000 and a little over that. And now it's down to like 70, I'm not looking at the page, but like 70.
74 or
74, I think is what it comes out to be.
74,730.
What's that?
74,730.
Yep. So that took $6,000 basically off that. So I did go back and look at that stuff after the last meeting, and one of the changes that also came up was because of the New England PBA, the New England the contract for the police department. They had to use the November Consumer Price Index for November, 75% of that. So that came out since the last meeting. So I was able to change that, which reduced the overall police budget a smidgen, because it was at 2.025 and it went down to 2. So there was some changes like that from the last meeting, but it did go down a little bit. But that's shaving. And vehicle maintenance, I think I've shared with the board on several occasions that we're really getting hammered right now with vehicle maintenance. And for whatever, there's lots of reasons why, and I'm not going to point fingers at anybody because it's water over the dam, but we're changing how we do business, and we're getting caught up on that maintenance, but it's killed our budget, the maintenance budget for the whole entire year, the current fiscal year. And we have 6 months to go. So we made some changes in here to help sustain ourselves and not be caught in that situation again. So I'm pretty confident that I've chopped out anything that's wasteful or that could be viewed as wasteful, and we're kind of at bare bones.
You good, Mary Lee?
I'm good.
Bob, anything?
Are you gonna be able to give us a little spreadsheet, just like Joe asked, hitting on the highlights of this budget's up 40,000, or are you gonna be able to give us that onto the side, or?
I'll do it however you want me to do it. I mean, is it more than just the comparison of this year to last year? If I understand Joe correctly, is like where the big increases came from?
That's what I'm looking for, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. To make up the majority of the 500,000 that it's up. Yeah.
And if you look on the spreadsheets I gave you, sometimes at the end of the particular budget, I made some notes in there saying,
Sure.
This much of the $7,000 increase is because of benefits.
Yep.
Because overall, wages went down. The amount we're paying for wages is less than last year's, and it's by almost $19,000. But benefits went up over last year's, or the current. I say last year, I mean this current fiscal year. It went up almost $39,000. So we had a 13.9% increase in healthcare, and we also had some employees that went from a single plan to a family plan, and that's about a $10,000 increase. So,
Anything else, Bob?
Other than, how do the rest of you feel about voting on this tonight? I heard what you said, Joe, with one board member not here. Is it gonna?
I'm ready to vote on it.
You're ready to vote on it?
I think that I talked to Jim tonight, and we didn't discuss whether or not he would vote on the budget. He regrets he couldn't be here, but he had a reason, a medical reason for not being here. So I am prepared to vote on it tonight as well, and I could reiterate everything Joe said, but I think we're all on the same page, that this is the right thing to do as much as it doesn't taste good. But that doesn't mean so we just have to do a very good job of disseminating to the public why this is the way it is and how we got here.
Just
Joe.
to add to that dissemination process, I just want to say for public information that the overall budget is increased, as we propose it, 14.3%. But the highway budget portion of that is increasing 21.9%, and all other government budget increases 10.8%. And if we were to subtract the $73,000 that we're putting in this year for the village school, which we had on the budget last year as a separate freestanding item, the general budget is going up 7%. So I think it's a number much more like what people are hearing other towns are adopting in their budgets this year. But I'm prepared to vote on this.
As am I, so do I have a motion?
I would move that we endorse the budget the town manager provided us on 12/19/2023 without change.
And Joe, can you add into your motion the number for total expenditure?
Yes.
It's on page 17.
Yes, for total expenditures of $3,704,957.
Wrong year, Joe.
Oh, a couple boxes.
Thank you, thank you.
It's okay,
Scratch that.
this can be a team sport.
$4,235,731.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion from the board? Any discussion from the town manager?
No.
From the public?
We hear ya.
Hearing none? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay. This one, I believe, is the town manager, discussion of reallocation of unassigned highway carryover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is probably, I'm not prepared, excuse me, I'm not prepared to give you exact numbers right now. But I wanted to bring up again the reasoning behind the discussion. In previous years, over the last year, I guess, I asked the select board to use unassigned highway carryover to fund several different things. One was remember that Brightly program? That was used out of unassigned highway carryover. And then there was repairs to vehicles. There was altogether, there's $109,000 in unassigned highway carryover is available to use. With much regret, that what I asked the board to commit to that is greater than $109,000. So what I was looking at was, and again, this is why it's going to go into discussion about ARPA that I know you probably don't want to go into and I don't really want to bring up because it's not on the agenda. But so I'm going to come back to you with some numbers. I'm still crunching the numbers. To consider using some ARPA funds to replace the unassigned highway carryover. And it's a shell game right now because I could ask the board to use ARPA funds to fix those broken vehicles that we have, because that's my catalyst behind asking is we have now a bill for that tandem, that 2013 tandem, that's sitting at Earl's for a little over $16,000. Then, as I provided last meeting, we have 7,500 to weld and fix our 20-ton trailer, and about $8,600, almost probably $8,700, to repair the mower tractor. Because we don't have the unassigned highway carryover to use, then we're kind of stuck because, as I shared with you earlier, our maintenance budget's gone for the year because of all the other repairs that we've had to make to the grader and all this other stuff. So the rock and the hard place is, how do I get the money to make the repairs to these vehicles, knowing that there's no unassigned highway carryover and there's no other place to steal it out of the budget? And I use steal kind of loosely, where else we could get it from. So the only other option is to not fix them right now, use ARPA, or I guess we just overspend the budget and monitor it and try to cut other places to offset it, the total highway budget. So that's what I'm going to be prepared to come back to the board and with some more suggestions. But I'm still crunching some numbers.
You're gonna show us where you wanna use this $109,000 that's available.
Correct. And I have most of it sitting right here in front of me, but you don't have it, and so I don't want to, ask you to try to imagine what's on a piece of paper in front of me. So, but I will come back to you with that, because we're also prepared to come to the select board, myself and Jeff, who's on, the highway foreman is on, with a plan for replacement of our vehicles, which I think the board will be pleasantly surprised with, because it will help reduce costs over the long run, but we still have to get ourselves through winter and fix stuff so we're able to move equipment from point A to point B. And but I think when I come back to you, we'll have the plan for replacement of vehicles and suggestion on how to get us out of the pickle that we're in. So that's kind of where I'm at, unless you have any questions that I can help.
I don't really have a question, but I don't like the idea of just not doing anything. Our equipment is important.
I have a question, but I'll let Joe go first because he may ask it for me.
Well, this suggests at least that our normal operating budget can accommodate these repairs that have become necessary and that may become necessary frequently in future years. I'd be interested in knowing, when you come back to us, what the status of our various reserve funds are.
Okay.
And I guess I'd be interested in your opinion at that time as to how adequate they are to meet the unanticipated needs such as these.
Fair enough. I think the board asked me last month, I said, I think the second meet in January, I'd come back with the fire department and the highway department, that vehicle replacement schedule as compared to the reserve accounts. And if you were to use, I think the way it was worded was, if you approve the ARPA funds for replacement of, or to purchase some vehicles, will the reserve accounts then be adequate enough to replace those vehicles over time, or are we going to just set ourselves up for failure again? So I am prepared to do that. Jeff has been working diligently and gave me some current statuses and replacement costs of vehicles, so we can come back to you with that information and show you kind of reality as far as replacement costs. But by reducing the fleet a little bit, we also reduce the number of vehicles we have to replace over that time frame, and which helps us keep vehicles that are going to be fully operational over, a 10, 12-year period for most of these trucks. The plan that we have to do that, and hopefully overall our reserve funds will adequately fund the stuff and not just fund replacement, but what our role is, and to make sure the stuff stays fully operational. And so I think we have enough information to put together that proposal to you, and I don't think it has to wait to the second meeting in January for the highway department or the fire department. So I'm prepared to come to you on the first meeting in January with it, but I wanted to see what happened with the budget, because if we were gonna push the budget into that first meeting in January, we're gonna be reluctant to put all that into one big meeting, but since you did this, I can bring this back to you by the first meeting in January.
I guess I'm not familiar enough with the language of the reserve account article that the taxpayers approved. But you're saying, I think I heard you say, that the reserve accounts as they currently exist can be used both to replace vehicles and to repair vehicles.
No, if that's how it sounded, that's not what I meant.
I didn't think so.
The maintenance budget was, the annual operating budget is for maintenance.
Right.
The reserve funds are for the replacement of it. And when you get this, when Melanie puts in your mailboxes, this is unaudited as of the end of October, but every one of these each month, the very last page is the reserve funds. So it'll show you what's in the reserve fund, what's projected to be in there by the end of the fiscal year, and all these notes on the far right side are Melanie's notes to keep track of what's been done, what's been said, and so we keep track of whether the voters approve something or whether the select board approves something, but this sheet is given each month, so if you have questions on it, you can ask me or feel free to call Melanie, but those are the reserve accounts for highway, transfer station, police department, everything.
It was about a week ago, we got the one for the end of October, correct?
Yeah.
So
Go
to
ahead,
follow
Joe.
up again, I think we may need to consider whether we should have a generic capital budget reserve account for expenses above, let me say arbitrarily, $5,000. Because expenses of the sort that you're describing here, I think must be anticipated as, continuing periodically. And it's easy to imagine that any of those larger expenses would blow the highway budget or any other budget in a bad year. But if we had a reserve account that would cover major repairs to fire trucks, highway department vehicles, police vehicles, when those are of a magnitude that would be severely problematical to cover within the operating budget, I think that would make sense.
I understand what you're saying, and I know as a fire chief in Rutland, the reserve could also be used, the way that it was worded, could be used for vehicle maintenance, and it had a threshold, like over, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but say a transmission needed to be replaced in a truck and it cost $10,000. If it met that threshold, then that reserve account could be used for that repair, that maintenance. But it just had to be, the wording for the reserve account might have to be modified to include
Yeah,
that.
either would be fine with me.
Okay.
Modify the existing language or create a new type of reserve account.
Yep.
But I think that we don't yet have a way to handle these large expenses except through one-time money like ARPA, which is done.
Correct. I can do that.
So do we need voter approval to change the language on those? That's my presumption, but
So that's, in my head, that's what I was thinking, is like, okay, now I gotta go back and craft a language, and present it to you at the next meeting, so that, if you choose to go that route, then it can get on the ballot.
and we also have to look and see if we're adequately funding reserve accounts, but that's a discussion for the next budget cycle.
Well, the reserve accounts, when I present you the vehicle replacement plan, we will have our recommendation, if it's not adequate enough right now, to what it would be, what it should be, to be able to meet that vehicle replacement schedule. And now, if you're gonna add in the maintenance, to include that as well.
So now I'm gonna ask the question I was gonna ask before, because Joe didn't ask it. In the past, when we had catastrophic or whatever, significant repair bills, did we use highway carryover for that? Is that how those were funded?
A little of both. It's been either highway carryover, or we may have had a large expenditure and it just depleted the budget, and we were able to manipulate things around, so the end of the year, the highway department wasn't overspent.
Because also if the repair budget for the highway department is underspent, that carries over also,
Under unassigned.
under unassigned, okay. So I guess this fiscal year that we're currently in now, we've used some of that unassigned carryover to handle some of the recurring expenses. I think like crushing and maybe salt or sand. or
Brightly crushing, grader and winter sand are some big, are the big
something.
ones.
Came out of unassigned highway carryover.
Correct.
So they were not included in last year's budget.
Correct.
And then we used $100K for paving out of ARPA, in
Correct.
round numbers.
And $1,200 for zoning, and $25,420 for the garage doors at the
So,
highway garage.
okay, so I guess I don't need to have you prepare any report beyond what you already have. So at this point, you're not asking us to take any action, just be aware, is that correct?
I did, that way, if you had any questions, it gives me some time to be able to pull together the response to your questions by the next meeting.
Bob, do you have any questions before we move on?
No, I'm just confident that the replacement schedule will hopefully neglect what Joe is proposing, to have a separate reserve account. And you're gonna get caught up on the maintenance. That's what I hear coming out of.
Yeah, I mean, maintenance, and again, I'm not gonna, I don't wanna throw anybody under the bus or
No,
air
no.
dirty laundry, but maybe past practices, have been do whatever possible to reduce the expenditures as much as possible, but when you put a Band-Aid on something, finally the Band-Aid gets tore off, and
Yeah.
now we're facing some of those are come to fruition now as far as, or come to light of, the Band-Aids have fallen off, and now the costs are much more.
So we'll just stop putting Band-Aids on things in the future.
And that's the purpose of us coming back to you with those proposals and show you that, I think, I'm not gonna speak for Jeff, but my interaction with Jeff is, he wants to get to a point where we got the adequate amount of vehicles, that we need, and we replace them on a cycle, they don't get so old that we're putting more money into them than they're worth.
right.
And our maintenance budget will be able to sustain, those reoccurring or normal functions of maintenance. And then the reserve account would then would come into play if there's big expenses over a certain threshold.
Sure.
Sounds like a plan.
Everyone good? I'm gonna move on then. This is you again, Mike. Explanation of the proposed payroll tax.
Yeah, I had it, I got it right here. So, I guess the bottom line is, not included in this budget is a payroll tax that's gonna be imposed, looks like beginning July 1st of 2024. And I didn't take $5,600 and just put it, that's what Melanie had calculated based on our payroll size of what it might cost. I didn't put it into the budget because the select board has the option to take up to 25% of that and charge it and have the employees pay it. So I didn't know where the select board was gonna go with it, because this is the first time we talked about it really out at a meeting, so I could add it all in there, or I could add 75% of it in there, but we're not gonna, according to what I provided the select board, and I did send some emails as well, but I print out some stuff, we're not gonna be exempt from it.
Would you touch on what this is about, though, Mike? You said something, I don't think,
I got it.
I, for one, is this something the legislature passed that we have to do?
Yeah, it's
I
for
haven't
offset for childcare is what,
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen where,
the only thing I could say about it, I don't have it right in front of me, but
Okay.
I did email the select board members that, so you could see it yourself, but I thought it was in your packet.
I didn't see anything in my packet.
What's that?
It wasn't in our.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, it's not mine either, so, it honestly was supposed to be in your packet, but I guess I don't have anything in front of me at this point to read to you, but I did take excerpts from it and basically said, it's gonna be imposed as of July 1st of '24. You can charge 25% to the employees up to a maximum of 25%, and then the town would pay the rest. And what we looked at, what we talked about as a staff was, how does it go into the budget? Does it go under one budget, like under managing? Or does it go against the library, sewer, and then the rest of the town? And we come up with a ratio based upon number of employees, because it's all based on the total payroll. So I don't really have an answer, but
Before you do that, Joe, I did ask Mike to give us a quick hip shot, and that's all it is, a wet finger estimate, that if we ask the employees to contribute 25% to this, it would cost a full-time employee roughly $50 to $60 a year for their share, just so you know. Now, Joe, go ahead.
Well, just as much for the audience, the purpose of this is in effect to transfer funds from the municipality to the state to support child care program expansion. Is that correct?
yeah, it's correct.
That's what I was looking for, yeah.
And that tax will be levied on all businesses and municipalities with a payroll. So it's not just cities and towns, it's Casella Trucking, Hubbard Forge.
There's even a formula in there for privately owned business or self-employed people.
I thought there was sort of a threshold of the size, the number of employees, but that's
There
not
may
important.
be, but
Doesn't affect us.
Yeah, there was a number, there was for a number of employees, but.
That's for the state to support
Expansion of childcare programs, and
wherever it's needed around the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we could be a recipient of some of that money if that ever come into fruition here, so.
Okay.
But the question was, or the question really is the town gonna front 100% of that? $5,600 over the course of everybody, or are we gonna ask the employees to contribute up to 25%? It's up to, instead of maximum, the wording said.
I think we should hit the burden ourselves.
I would agree.
Yeah. I'm.
It's gonna
Like I said.
benefit everybody, not just the employees of our town, so yeah, it's gotta be spread out. Yeah, through the whole town, and not make a certain group pay 25% of it. That's not really fair.
Well, it's gonna come out of it's gonna come out of the budget.
I understand that.
But if it's not split out and the employees don't pay it, if I put it under one budget, under my budget, it's gonna make, my budget line will go up $5,600. So as people vote on things and some people go to the ballot and say, if it goes up, I'm gonna vote no on it, it just increases one budget a lot, or we split it out amongst the library. What we talked about was the library, because we take care of their payroll, the sewer plant, which is zone enterprise, and then the rest of the town. We could figure out that ratio and charge it off to their budgets, but not to the employees.
go ahead, Joe.
As I said, I'm in favor of the town covering all of this. One of the other reasons I would give for that is that, from what I can see, we have a moderately mature workforce working for the town, few of whom are presently utilizing child care services. I think that's all the more reason for disseminating this burden across the whole taxpayer base.
Which I agree with. The question I have for Mike, you're talking about from an accounting point of view, where do you put the cost?
Right.
So from an administrative point of view, how much of a burden would it be on your staff to spread that out in some prorated formula amongst various departments?
Nothing, I talked to Melanie about it. Well, all we do is we'd add a separate line into those administrative budgets. So it'll show what it's for, so it's transparent, it'd be for payroll tax. And so it's simple.
I'd suggest that's what we do. So that each department or entity,
So this is gonna change.
That was my point, is it's not in there right now, because I didn't know if you wanted the cost share that with the employees, that would change. If I just put $5,600 in there, it could change it.
Well, you are gonna put $5,600 into this somewhere, whether
So-
you put it 5 different departments or 10, it's going in here.
And now,
Yeah, so it's gonna change.
so what you voted on is.
We'll have
that-
to re-vote again.
Or we added up what it is right now, and you agree that agree to the changes. So we take that 4,235,000 But I don't know I don't know the exact number right now, that's the problem.
Oh, you don't know if it's 5,600? Oh,
That was Melanie's best guess based on our payroll.
okay.
Is it safe to say that the budget that we just approved for fiscal year 24-25 could absorb $5,600? So if we spread the cost out among the various departments, the impact will probably be minimal?
Correct. Probably the biggest impact would be, there's only 2 people in the sewer department, and there's like 4 people at the library, so, but it's gonna be a ratio, a percentage, so we'll,
But the overall budget's still gonna be up 5,600 or 700? It's gonna change.
well, if you don't put it in there, we just absorb it as it's right now.
Okay.
I'm saying that we could, if we could absorb that, because we typically have a surplus of anywhere from $109,000 to $289,000.
Okay.
That our departments, those 3 entities could absorb it.
That's where I was going with this, Bob, is we normally have a 6-figure surplus.
Okay.
So we can absorb 5K.
I just don't know, because I don't know exactly the number right now.
And I don't think we need to vote on it, but I agree with Mary Lee and Joe that the town should bear this burden, not the
Oh,
employees.
absolutely, absolutely.
All right, anything else on this? Anyone in the audience? No? Okay. We're going to move on. The manager's report.
You don't have one,
I don't have one.
because I didn't do one. It's the short turnaround with everything else going on, I did not do one.
Going to have one next meeting?
Oh, yeah,
Promise?
absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to move on. Purchase orders for approval. I didn't see any,
I didn't see any either.
so we're at warrants. If someone would be kind enough to make a motion for the first 8?
Go for it, Joe.
I would move that we approve check warrant number 1225A for $104,500. Warrant number 1208 for $4,773.40. Warrant number 1214 for $6,336.24. Warrant number 1218 for $1,819,021.52. Warrant number 1221 for $6,193.59. Warrant number 1225 for $238,720.09. Warrant number 1214P for $17,296.34, and warrant number 1221P for $17,020.24.
I'll second it. Did you want to?
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Mr. Mark, I'll ask you to administer the next 2. I have to recuse
Is there a
myself.
motion on the remaining 2 warrants?
We're looking for you to make a motion on them, Joe. That's what we're looking for. Do
I
you
would
want,
move that we approve warrant number 1215P for $631.91, and warrant number 1222P for $631.91.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Did you recuse yourself?
I did already.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Hopefully we got the camera aimed, Mike, so nobody knows I'm here.
In stealth mode.
That wasn't on purpose.
Well, feel free continue that practice.
If you want to go to the podium and speak, Mr. Mark, we can make sure the camera's on you.
We got the right number, Dick?
I didn't count them yet.
Okay.
Count them on the incoming end.
All right.
Does anyone have a reason for executive sessions?
I had a quick question on real estate.
Okay, I have a quick update for personnel, labor relations. You gonna take the red folder back, Mike?
I will. I got a message, Pete forgot about tonight, so he's at home and he didn't get it for us. And, two people, both Nedra and, Allison said they couldn't get in. They were saying it was a bad link.
Oh, wow.
By the time you get to the last one, I can't even recognize it. My signature.
Yeah. I am not qualified
My eyes aren't very clear tonight, for
to
whatever reason.
opine on that.
Yeah.
That's an important.
How many you got, 4?
Have eye drops with me, but I don't
You
tonight.
have 4?
Yes.
Then we have
Was there a
10.
sign-up sheet for everybody to sign in?
I have glasses too. I think I could put my hands on them.
We have
You
10.
don't mean because they're dry, you mean because,
Yeah, they're just, this right here, it just looks like a bunch of dots right
what's
now.
that with all the red writing?
That's the account reserves that we were just talking
Yeah, but what's the front page?
about. What's the front page?
They're like probably 10 years
I don't
old.
have that page.
We don't have one of these ledgers? We get them every meeting.
You get one a month.
I
Yeah.
know, but I don't have anything that's got any red writing on
Not
it.
in the maintenance budget.
That's not the financial report in your hand.
No, this was not in the packet. It was
Okay,
It was
stuck
in
in
your
the box.
mailbox a week or so ago.
Yeah.
okay. All right,
And the last page of that is the reserve account status. But unfortunately, that only tells you the dollar amount. It doesn't tell you what the plans are.
are we operating over there?
I'm not sure what we're doing. Are we,
That thing, that's okay. I don't mind a straight upright. It's okay.
hey, Mike,
Yes,
we're ready when you are.
I'm fighting with the chair.
I see that. Who's winning?
Winning.
Are you taking this back?
I will, thank you.
All right, moving on. Select board comments. Mary Lee.
I'm fine.
Bob?
I'm good.
Joe?
Two things. Want to thank Bob for sending me this, a suggestion on the select board report for the town report, but I would invite the others of you to offer your ideas about what topics we should cover. Bob's suggestion was really a discussion of the budget and its increases and why, which sounds like a great idea. But there are a lot of other things that happened this past year between July 1 and June 30 that will be covered in the report. We should probably address some of them briefly. And I know that there's been some concern about the aiming of the light at the entrance to the Castleton Health Center. Is it possible to aim it a bit more into the driveway? Because right now, the driveway is poorly illuminated again.
I can certainly ask them, because they did move it back after the complaints come in, so what I'll ask them, I can ask them what they can do.
Yeah.
Gotta find that happy medium, huh?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
I have one other thing. What about the dedication of the town report? Any ideas on who or what it should be dedicated to this year?
I think we should get any thoughts we have into Karen or Mike soon. What's your drop dead on that, early January?
Correct, and Karen just put out to me, she was looking at the I forgot what it was, like 11 January or something like that.
For the text of the report, you told me January 19th.
Okay. But it's,
So yeah, I mean, is that a select board decision, a town manager's decision, or what?
It's typically a collaboration,
for what, the dedication?
the dedication.
Well, I had two thoughts, and I'm sure there are other good ones out there. One was, I mean, we have honored some of our larger businesses over the years. Brown's Auto Salvage, I think, is one that's never shown us light on, nor has Hubbard and Forge. I think they're both pretty important to the town in different ways. But if I were to imagine losing an institution and being crushed, it would be the medical center. And that would probably be my leading contender.
For dedication?
Well, at least for the photo on the front. Whether that's also a dedication is a separate
I
matter.
think the photo on the front, that's a superb idea, because that doesn't get as much recognition as it probably deserves and as much good as it does for the area, the medical center.
And ideally, I'd love it if we could get, it's impractical.
All three?
A good chunk of the medical center employees out in front of the building, not just have a building picture.
It is all about the staff, isn't it?
Yeah.
I would support that for a cover. I think it's probably time we recognize some of those entities in town. The dedication, I hope it's appropriate, but I would like to dedicate it to Honore Fleming.
To who? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Pardon?
I didn't hear you.
Honore Fleming?
Oh, okay.
That's a thought.
I mean, we lost a lot when we lost her. Not just her, but a lot. And I think it would be appropriate to recognize that.
Another person to be thought of probably is Joe Bruno, who was a selectman and
Oh, there is
planning
that.
commission, and,
He was chairman of the select board for a while. Yeah.
you know, he has done a lot.
Yeah, he gave a lot to this town over the
Whether you
years.
like what he did or not, he's done a lot.
Without Joe Bruno, and you guys can agree or disagree with me, this place, but definitely the town office, would have not have come into fruition. Maybe by now it would have, but not when it did. And that's a fact. So we've got to recognize Joe Bruno.
There isn't any reason why we can't recognize more than one person, is there?
There is no reason why
There's been instances where there's been multiple.
precedent for that.
I'd say both.
One should be maybe in recognition of service or something along those lines, and the other one should be in memoriam, perhaps. We got time to think about it, but
Feels like progress.
it does feel like progress. I have no select board comments at this time. The only action item I've got is Joe and Mike are gonna redraft the bottle return policy at the transfer station. Anybody else have anything for items for follow-up?
No.
Okay. We have a need for executive session for real estate.
I would move that we go into executive session for real estate with the board and the town manager at 7:10.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.